You are watching Rarely Reserved, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast. I am Charles, also known as Omnus, and I'm here with the droid queen, Sin, who admires all of her fleshling, followers.
I do. I don't think less of you because you're not metal. That's totally not a thing that occurs.
That was probably like 75% true. Okay, so obviously we're trying out a little bit of a different layout. This is preparation for me recording interviews at Adepticon, and also just trying to give us something a little bit more free form that we can have fun with on the show. So definitely open to feedback, but we've got pucking to do.
Oh yeah, this is the show that I am the co-host of, and I forget all of the segments. So
it's okay. You might remember once I tell you that after you did the puck last week, I said that you inspired something that I wanted to bring up the next episode. So for the viewers or listeners, you were talking about Lego Star Wars.
I did.
You reminded me of a personal Star Wars video game story from being a kid. I specifically decided to not mention it. But so the first Star Wars video game I ever played was Super Star Wars for the Super Nintendo. And it's kind of like Lego Star Wars in the sense that it does you take parts in the story that doesn't actually happen in the movie.
Okay.
There's like behind the scenes stuff, like Chewie, and you have to like clear out the cantina before you can talk to Han Solo. So you have to like fight a bunch of guys before you can go talk to Han Solo. But so there's two things in that I distinctly remember. One of it, as I remember, as I'm navigating the Sandcrawler, I was trying to figure out how I get past these like particular barriers. And I remember going, there has got to be some trick to this. And I went back and reread the rules booklet that comes with it. And there was a slide maneuver. And I was like, maybe you slide past these things, and you do. And so it was like one of the few times, as someone who is like, I will figure this shit out myself, I actually went back to the rule book, found something out, and it's not like important anywhere else in the game, but you have to do it that one spot. But the part that sticks out to me the most when I think back about playing this game is about halfway through the game. I believe it's in the cantina. You have to fight, it's like Kalar boss monster. Mm-hmm. It's based off of one of the animated guys in the game, the Hollow game that they play. It's like one of the monsters.
Right.
But it's the actual monster. And it is the hardest fucking fight. Like, I remember every time I play through that game, I would level up my blaster. So I'm like shooting these super mega plasma shots. And then I would always die, lose all my blaster upgrades, and then spend like hours trying to kill this one dude, and then eventually do it, and then move on and had no problems with like the rest of the game.
Just as one random expert level boss battle in the middle of it. Otherwise,
yeah. And I love that I can Google search annoying boss Super Star Wars, and it shows me pictures.
Everyone agrees.
Yeah, it is a known thing. I think any listener, viewer who played Super Star Wars would be like, yes, I have nightmares still about that guy. But I wouldn't say that game was as formative for me as it is, as Lego was for you. But
yeah, no, the reminiscing made me re-download Lego Star Wars. I think I sent you a picture, and so I'm like replaying it. And I'm like playing it. I'm like, I remember this being so difficult as a child. And I'm like, that was easy. But you know what? I was 7 when that came out. So let's give 7-year-old me a break.
Yeah.
But
I remember the video games I remember playing the most as a kid was definitely Mario 3. And I remember playing Aladdin for Sega Genesis around the time that the Aladdin movie came out, shortly afterwards. Remember playing that a lot. I think I got it for like Christmas one year. And Echo the Dolphin. I went back and tried to play Echo the Dolphin as an adult. I was like, this game is way too fucking hard. How did I ever beat this game as a like? I remember it being hard as a kid. It's astronomically challenging.
Man, no, I'm trying to. What's a Super Nintendo?
So there's the Nintendo, and then it became Super because it was bitten by a radioactive spider. No,
it's just the Xbox 360 of Super Nintendos.
No, like way before that.
Okay. All right, irrelevant.
Yeah.
I'll Google it later.
There was Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Then they had like a Virtual Boy thing, and Game Boy came out around that time. And then there was the N64, and then there was eventually the Wii. I don't think there was something between the N64 and the Wii, but we're talking pretty far back. Ancient history.
I remember the Wii.
Yeah,
that's
I have a Super Nintendo. I will show you a Super Nintendo
show me a
game.
Super Nintendo. I can't visualize it. Is it a thing you hold?
I mean, it's a console that would plug into your TV.
Oh, so it is an Xbox 360.
It is that. It is a console game. I was just thinking Xbox 360 is like many years down the road of upgrades and such. But I need to like track down this Star Wars game.
Yeah, and I want to see what you're talking about.
And then we should play Super Star Wars.
I'm scared. As long as it's not the one boss or the sliding area, where I think we're fine.
Yes. Anyway, what do you think? So the last few of our pucks, we've kind of shifted it towards what's the best way to just meaningful stuff to us related to Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like we should vibe with this more. Okay. I feel like this is a thing that we should keep rolling. I think we should still pull in, when we want to challenge people and just like talk about people from the community or do weird stuff in Star Wars. But I like the idea of us focusing in more on what kind of how Star Wars means to us, which shout out to Poos. This was all Poos' idea. This was a Poos.
If you didn't like the segment, you should DM him.
Yes, if you're like, can you just go back to, I don't care about what Star Wars means to you. Talk about talk about bounty hunters again. But yeah, so hopefully maybe I will have inspired you and you'll be like, well, because you talked about that, now I have this other thing that I want to talk about next episode.
Yeah, you'll have to tune in and find out.
Yeah. And we'll see if we're still on the same layout.
Yeah, but things keep changing.
All right. What we've been up to. Do you have anything to share? Have you been painting, assembling, or are you too broken for that sort of thing?
Sadly, I went and decided to try to be helpful with a bad shoulder and hurt it significantly more than it already was hurting. So the last few days, I'm gonna tell
your husband.
He knows that he's disappointed in me, which is worse than anything. But like, it normally I can at least like get up to here and it hurts. It's fine. I can get like here on this side. This is the side that's bad. So I'm like, no painting. No, like I tried playing a game Saturday and it was, I had to have other people were basically playing the game for me to the point where it was like, I'm not here right now. Like, everyone has to move my models. I don't even want to like, my brain hurts because my shoulder hurts. So it was just like, all right, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna reset. But unfortunately, that was like several days ago. My shoulder still is really bad. So I'm just like, okay.
The most droid queen thing that we could imagine. You're like, servant droids, play this game for me.
Yeah, it's kind of
roll well, or you will be dismantled and become a super battle droid.
Yeah, I've kind of felt like that. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna reset. So hopefully in a couple days I'll feel better and can actually do stuff again. But man, I am. How about you?
Well, I was just realizing this is the first time we could cheers.
Oh my gosh,
on the cast. So Jabba and Bink. But I haven't done any hobbying for Shatterpoint this past week, but I did have someone from the community ask me for a demo this last Saturday. And so I got to meet up with Jim. Jim had purchased the 2 Rebels boxes and was just like, I want to try these out. And so it was nice because I have extra dice and I have extra templates. And I was like, well, you hadn't picked up a core set. I've got templates for you. I've got dice for you. And I was like, also, he wouldn't have Shatterpoint cards. So I have extra Shatterpoint cards and then gave him the core set mission as well. But we did, I played the Darth Maul side of the core set versus Kanan box. And that was, we had some fun interactions in that one. I had a turn were my Mandalorian super commandos, because I had Ezra down to 1 and I had Kanan down to 2 or 3. No, maybe it was 4 health left. And I was about to kill both of them in the same activation. But the problem was I had opposite rolls. The attack on Ezra was like all successes. Mm-hmm. And then the one on Kanan was just like 2 crits. So I ended up leaving Kanan on 1, killed Ezra, only swung 1 point, and then that kind of. But I had this interesting super commando or Commandalorian. I'm sorry.
Mandalorians.
But yeah, listeners, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, I always do the intro mission now. Just 3 objectives across the middle, 1 squad versus 1 squad. I think it always leaves people wanting to play more. They're never worn out in the way that your first game, learning everything, and then you play 3 struggles, and then they're always ready for a full game afterwards. But then they already kind of have some juice and they have a reset period. Yeah. And I find that they're always more energized and more excited about the game like that, playing a game and a half, than they are just going straight into one game, learning all 6 models all at the same time, where learning 3 models, then getting a little bit of a reset, then going, okay, well, now I've got to learn these other 3, and you play a full game. And then, but shout out to Jim. Ryan and Donovan showed up afterwards, and Ryan used to play with all the Spectres as his tournament list. And I was like, Jim, why don't you play a full game with Ryan? Ryan knows your list better than I do. And so they got a game. Donovan and I played a game. Shout out to Donovan. He got a win on me.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, it was one of the days where I wasn't fully energized. I think I was a little tired. And so I was like, I'm just going to play Mandos.
Okay.
I didn't want to play anything like too extreme. And so I kind of was like toying around with trying my Vader or Veers list. But I'm like, I don't think I have the mental capacity to play it right now. And so I was like, you know what? I had not actually played a game with the Bo-Katan and Clan Kryze like as them. I played them in like Galactic Legends.
Okay.
But I had not played a real game with them, I think, since I did my update on them and I painted new models. And I was pretty proud of how they look. And so I was sad that I hadn't played them. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just play the Darth Maul stuff. And I'll do Mando, Clan Kryze, and Bo-Katan. And he just had this really great Darth Maul play where Darth Maul like pulled Mando off. Like he moved through his lightsaber at a wounded Mando super commandos. And then got the reposition to move past them, pull Mando off the point. Then he moves again and takes my back point and scores 4. And I just had no comeback in that particular one. So Donovan got a legit Omnus takedown. Nice. So congrats to Donovan. It was a fun game, but yeah, I got out. I played some games.
Yeah.
And did not set up camera equipment, which I had not done for games in a while. Donovan was a little annoyed that he beat me and then it wasn't on camera.
Oh, no. There's no proof. We don't get to relive this moment.
Yeah. I'm confessing. Donovan, you got me. Yeah, so that was kind of what I was up to. And
nice.
Then I think I have a demo scheduled for this weekend as well. So it's gonna be a little demo time period leading up to Adepticon.
Very nice. I like that.
All right. Well, you picked the main topic for this episode. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and you run the shizzo.
I'm running, and that means notes. So my concept for this is basically I am new to like list writing because like I've been playing minis games for a little while, but in terms of making lists in every game, not just in Shatterpoint, I've kind of just, played with someone in the middle. Oh, your list is really fun. I'm going to get those models and play that list. Or
you're a list thief.
I steal.
Yeah. Borrower.
No.
You go to the list leasing office and you find out what it costs to lease that list for 2 months.
Exactly.
Until you're ready to paint something else.
I rent out lists, and or I talk to someone who likes some of the models I'm interested in, and trick them into writing a list for me. So I have not done the work myself, really. And so coming into this year, I thought I really want to be able to do that. Yeah. And then the second thought occurred to me was, I don't know how to do that. So my hope for today is I can ask you questions and get to the point where I'm like, okay, I have an idea of where to start. What I don't want is to be like, I know how to write this list. That's what I don't want. I know how to write a list that has Bo-Katan in it.
We're not trying to specifically build you a specific list right now. No. We're talking about more list building in general of lessons and paths and guidance and stuff, which, lucky for you, I think I like list building and deck building more than I like playing games. Yeah. So it's kind of my thing.
Yeah. So I want to hit it really conceptually without even, like, we can use certain characters as examples, but I don't really want to talk about characters specifically. So let me consult my list of questions and things like that. So what is kind of, so let's say you are looking at a list, just any list. Do you have, like, just looking at it, a thing that makes you think, this functions or doesn't function?
Well, I would say some of the first things that, like, I absorb on a surface level looking at a list is that I like to have, there's kind of a couple things on a checklist, and I really wouldn't go by this as like a hard, this is how a good list, but on a very surface level, when I see that a list has like some form of like auto displacement, like they've got one character with a force push or a Django pull, or, you know, any of those things, could even be Wrecker's ability to like dash and just like give someone a guaranteed range one shove. I like to see like at least an instance of that. I like to see a little bit of like wounding potential, like when you need a wound, you can probably get it. And then do I just see a fair amount of like movement? And that on like a surface level, like when I kind of see those things, then I'm like, okay, then on a like after the surface level, then I start going, well, what about synergies? But I would say that's kind of one of the first things when I see something and I'm like, ooh, okay, I like, you've got a good mix here. Now let's dig into it deeper.
Okay. That I get that. What is kind of a, like, either a trap or a mistake that is really easy to make when you're first starting making a list?
Okay. Really, really good question. So I think that there's kind of stages in people's list building journey. Mm-hmm. It starts off with, I want to play models. Like you just kind of like, for me, got into the game, I wanted to play the Mandos in the core set.
Okay.
Right. And so I was like, I'm going to grab all the Mandos. And then I'm like, I want to play red lightsabers. So Asajj Ventress and Dooku. Or sorry, Asajj Ventress and Darth Maul.
Gotcha.
Right. And I'm picking the characters that I like. And I think that's where almost everybody starts. Now, the next step is you start going, okay, well, now I've kind of like, I don't necessarily need every single character to be my first choice. You start building for synergies. Mm-hmm. And the most basic synergy, if someone jumped into that right now, they might go, well, I want Mando in here because Bo-Katan and Gar Saxon can move Mando. So that would be more synergistic than, say, Asajj. And I think a lot of people get stuck at that step. And they get stuck on the just building for synergy. And they're just kind of building in their own bubble. And I think the most important step, and I think the closest thing that I would describe to as a trap, is getting stuck in that and not realizing when the situational importance is more relevant than the synergies. Where you're like, even if you're building all Mando stuff, maybe there's a point where you're just like, I need Dengar in here because I just need a little bit more force efficiency or something, where you're just like, sometimes you got to get outside of your bubble a little bit and just go, what solves the problem? Like, I'm struggling into X, or I want to be better at this mission. And you just kind of go, what gets me outside the bubble that makes me situationally better at the thing that I need to be better at?
Okay. So not totally just trapping yourself into the specific
Yeah, some people are just like, it's building all synergy all the time. And like an example might be you like playing Obi-Wan, right? Shakti isn't necessarily the character that you would think has the most synergy with Obi-Wan. She doesn't naturally hunker herself the way that Rex does or Cody does. But you go, well, having one more force and having the ability to auto-displace in that list with her repulse might be better than the innate synergy of having a built-in hunker mechanic. And so there's just little things like that I think you have to learn to kind of get past the like pure synergy all the time and understand when you get to kind of solving your problems.
Okay. So I come from Warhammer, and a lot of when we talk about,
you played Warhammer?
I do. And a lot of times I don't know how much this crosses over, and I'm curious. So like a lot of times in that game, when we're talking about lists, like a list will have an identity. Like this is a mid-board game list. This is a first turn list. This is blah blah blah. Are there a lot of like identities in Shatterpoint, and can you like identify them first thing? Is that like a character specific thing? Is it like immediately like, this is this character and this is this type of list immediately right off the bat?
So for me, I tune into I have 4 pillars.
Okay.
And I look at, and basically everything is on a spectrum of these 4 things. And I think of displacement, I think of movement, I think of revenge, and I think of wounding potential.
Okay.
And so I take those 4 things and I look down at the list, and my first calculation is like, I look down at your list, I'm like, this list wants to kill.
Okay.
Or this list is going to make minimal attacks and it's going to displace me. Or like this list has so much movement. It has so much ability to swing a whole bunch of different points. Or it's like, oh, this is a double revenge list. And you can absolutely like cross over between these, but it makes me immediately start zooming in on like, what is their path to victory, right? If you see like Vader 1 Iden, you're like, oh, they want to kill me. Their path to victory is going to largely be based on how fast they kill me. So I'm thinking, how can I slow that down?
Okay.
And, and there's just a little different answer depending on which pillar that is, or most lists do at least a kind of couple of things really well.
Sure.
But that's kind of what I look at. I don't think Shatterpoint has as much of like, I'm a alpha strike list or something like that. So
starting out writing lists, there's this, broadly speaking, 4 kind of archetypes. Am I trying to kind of look at my list and build like, all right, I'm going to try to build this kind of list today? And speaking specifically as someone who's trying to learn how to write lists, is it easier to just be like, all right, I want to learn, wound potential. I'm going to like focus on writing a wounding list, or is it?
I don't know if I ever start with those things as like, I am trying to build a list that does that. Like, I think there's a certain point where you start as other steps towards building the list. You start going, I think the strength of my list is wounding. How can I make sure that I'm wounding fast enough or in the right ways? Okay. So like, for example, if you're like, I want to play Vader Iden, you start thinking about things where you're like, well, what do I do into Kanan? And you're like, well, Kanan doesn't get his revenge trigger when he dies from something that's not an attack. So you start thinking about, well, if I incorporate something like Bosk, who has a special ability, like an activated ability that can kill, then you start going, okay, when you identify the strengths of your list, you can kind of round it out nicely. But no, I don't usually start by going, I'm going to just take one of these pillars, or I'm going to try to build to the pillars. But at a certain point in the list building process, I kind of evaluate how good I am at them. And it's like, if it doesn't hit kind of a raw number in my head, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm good enough at any of these things. Like maybe my list isn't very good.
Gotcha. So how close is that to just your win con? Like when you're looking at it, is it the same thing, or is it an adjacent thing, or how do you think about that?
I think it is fundamentally the win condition.
Okay.
Right.
So like a wounding list is a list that wins by wounding.
Right. It's well, I would say it's how it gains its advantage. right?
Okay.
Which leads to it. Because obviously we all have the same win condition, which is scoring the points. And so it's not quite like Magic the Gathering. You're like, I could deck them. I could kill them with poison counters. I can,
Right.
you
But
know,
like different lists are relying on different things to win.
But what if I'm playing, like when I see people play something like Thrawn and Gideon, I look down at that. I'm like, that's a movement list at its core. It wants to not be wounded so that moving stuff matters, and it will overwhelm you quickly. And so the games can go out very fast. And so when I'm building a list like that, then I might start going, well, I want to lean towards tankier stuff. Right? Like you might do a little less techie and a little more like, I just need my shit to be alive.
Sure. Well, interesting. I kind of keep hearing you say, when I look down at a list, it seems like you're thinking about this from the perspective of you're about to play a game and you're looking at what someone else is playing and thinking about it that way. Do you think when you're starting to write lists that it's actually maybe more important to learn how to look at someone else's list and realize what it's doing?
No, I think that's definitely from a playing perspective. You have to learn what someone else is doing. But when you're building your list, now maybe there's a high level portion where you're like, all right, the meta is Cassian and Boss. And you're like, I want to build something that plays into these things. And so you can certainly start from that place. But that's not usually where I would start lists. Like I would have a totally different starting place than just like I'm building for one of these things, and I'm not usually building to counter something, but I might be keeping some of that stuff in mind as I'm building, where I'm like, I don't want to just get totally shit on by this thing that I know everybody plays at my store, you know?
Right. But do you think that, like, besides, not in terms of like, I'm building a list to counter this, but just like, I'm learning how to build lists, do you think almost working inversely would help? Like, not I'm looking at this list to counter it, but like, I'm going to look at this list that already exists and try to think about what it does rather than starting from scratch.
I think it absolutely can help because, so for example, if we go back maybe a year, we had a very different baseline for how much movement you had to have in a list, because last year, you know, around this same time, the meta was way more movement based. And so there was a lot more, I want to focus on bringing secondaries that move stuff because I'll just get out positioned. Now the meta is way more wound focused. And so movement doesn't matter nearly as much because moving something onto the point that's dead, you know, doesn't matter. And so it shifts the mentality where before you might go, I want to play secondaries that move stuff. Where now I'm starting to look at things and go, I want to play Chewbacca because he'll live. Like he'll be alive on a point, which is more important than moving something else. But I don't think for someone who's learning to build lists that I would start from the perspective of building to match some of the other things, but you can use it as a baseline if you're kind of going, do I have enough movement in this list? And you can kind of see what everyone else is playing and about how much they move. But I wouldn't consider that where I would start at all.
Okay. Do you think that then the very first step is actually just like looking at character sheets over and over, or?
A little bit. I think a lot. So if I was just going to start a list, I usually just start from some sort of goal. And I think a lot of people, like the most standard goal is, I want to try out this character.
Okay.
And just go like, a lot of us in the last couple of months have been coming back to Mother Talzin. And when you hit that point, you're like, man, this is a really cool sculpt. I want to try her again. So I actually start going, well, what makes a Mother Talzin list good? And I start there. If Mother Talzin is my goal, I want to put her on the table again. Then I'm start going, okay, well, what else needs to go with her to make that work? Or inversely, I'm like, I really want to try this new mission. I might go, what do I think is good on this mission? Or if you're like, I want to, if you're just trying to experience something specific, you're like, I play revenge too much. I want to play something really wound focused. Then like that's your starting goal. And you're like, how do I shake up and learn something different? Those are usually my starting places of going like, what is my actual like upfront goal that I'm doing? And I think 90% of the time, that is, I picked up a new model. I want to try out that model, or I have a model that I painted or have had in my collection for a bit that I would really like to explore. And so I start with, how do I make this work?
Okay, so you build up off of a single model that you're interested in.
Yes, a lot of the time. I think that's a totally reasonable place.
Okay. Do you, when you're, okay, so let's say you've picked this character, you've picked kind of a assembly of characters to go with them. Do you kind of think about, you've got the list, you think at least synergizes somewhat. What do you think about after that? Is like, how much pre-gaming do you do before the game of like, am I thinking through the whole struggle, or like, how is your brain checking off things? Cause I can use the app. I can put people in slots, but then once I have them there, I'm like, okay, there, that's sure is all the units.
Yeah. So there are definitely points where I build a list and then I get to the table and I realize, oh my God, I don't know who I will Shatterpoint first. Like when the Shatterpoint comes up. And there are some things that I like to think about in retrospect, but I don't always do this as far in advance as I would like to.
Okay.
An example would be when I sit down and I start doing a list and then I realize, who am I willing to reserve if I pull them first? Or is it something like, say, for example, if I'm going to play a Vader 1 list, okay, I kind of want to be in a position where he is the only character I'm willing to reserve. And so I might think about things like that and go, oh, okay, I'm making a Vader 1 list. If I'm going first, Vader 1 doesn't have any good targets, so I will reserve him, which means I don't want to reserve anyone else.
Okay.
And so I need to have a plan for how I would kind of utilize each of those characters on each of the different missions if I pulled them first. And so that is a thing that I should think about more, but I would say that is slightly on the medium to advanced side of list design, where I wouldn't say that a new person needs to think about that right away. But if you are like getting into list building more and you're a person who has tinker time on the bus or whatever, and you're like, and you want to think about a list more, that is a thing that I would think about. And where you go, okay, if you visualize, all right, I'm deployed, it's shifting priorities, and you just kind of go through the list of your characters and you're like, is it bad for me if I'm trapped into going to this person first? Or, and a good question is, what happens if I pull Shatterpoint first? Am I playing a list that is fine reserving it? Or not, it's not called reserving it, but, shuffles it back in? Or are you going, no, I can't afford to spend that force, so then I need to have a good opening play with the Shatterpoint so I don't waste it?
That makes sense. I definitely think that it's something I need to do, or I need to think about more often, even outside of list building, is just what happens if I pull Shatterpoint first. Because I think anyone who's played me and I've pulled Shatterpoint first, they just watch me stare at it for like 30 seconds, like, oh no. But yeah, that makes sense. So let's say you write your first list, go straight to the game, run through the game, total get thrashed.
Yeah.
It's worst case scenario. Going back to the drawing board, how do you really evaluate, did I suck or did my list suck?
I mean, it can be both, but let's but no, I think you do have to learn to objectively rate the gaming experience, right? Where you need to be able to kind of step back and go, well, was this randomness, right? Was this order deck, dice, matchup? Was there just something like, was this something that just worked out of my favor? And I think a lot of the time it's really good if you can discuss it with your opponent, right? If you can kind of sit back after the game and just kind of like talk about it. Like I remember I played a game with Nate in the store and he's like, I'm trying to figure out why I lost this game. And we were kind of digging through and like, there was no there's no moments where I was like, I think you messed up this play. And then we went all the way back, and it actually was a deployment thing. And if he had deployed just slightly differently, he could have protected his back deployment, which was how I ended up swinging a big advantage, was like taking his deployment from him. And he actually could have deployed differently to protect that. And that could have made the whole game harder for me. And so I think there is a challenge in Shatterpoint to evaluating your games, in that sometimes, or honestly, most of the time, the things can be very subtle. Where we talk about it a lot in general, where I just will be looking at a game and I'm just amazed how much 1 or 2 millimeters made a difference.
Yeah.
Where you're like, man, I just barely hit that ingress point. So that means I'm going to protect this point and win this struggle. Or you barely don't hit it. Or you get shoved off and you're barely off, or you're barely on, or like all of these things. Or you're like barely blocked by this piece of terrain, or barely not blocked by this piece of terrain. And so millimeters matter in Shatterpoint a lot. And so sometimes you can be like, well, I got destroyed, but it was over if I had shifted my positioning by 2 millimeters, the game is totally different. And so I think, but honestly, I think learning to evaluate your games is its own skill. And I think if you want to grow as a player, you do have to learn to evaluate your games. When I remember when the Queen's Gambit came out on Netflix, I got kind of like into like learning about chess stuff a little bit. I never really like played it, but I was just reading about chess masters and stuff. And one of the things that they talked about was how people who played chess like at a master level would like play chess for a long time, then teach chess for a while, and then basically go out and talk about chess. And like that was their day. But they spend a large amount of time, like as much time as they spend playing, they spend evaluating games, both games that they played and games that masters played, and kind of trying to dissect which move could have potentially changed the outcome of the game. And not everybody has the ability to just record their games, but I find I learn so much from watching games that I played in, or watching games that other people played in, where you start cluing in onto little things that aren't as relevant. And I think you start creating, and we're kind of drifting into the like, how do you get better? And I think you learn on things that you kind of start cluing in on things. You're like, I need to get better at that. And like one of the things in the past for me was like remembering coordinated fire, and you're like, I want to get better at that. And something I've wanted to work on a lot and try to get better at is positioning for heals. And you pick things, you're like, what is a part of your character's kit that you didn't really get to utilize? And so maybe you go, okay, I want to still practice this list a bit more. Let me see if you just pick different things on the card and you're like, I want to get better at this. Or like, say we were talking about Leia earlier. Did I position the other team so that the first dash gets them to an ingress point? And you just start picking up on little things over and over and over again. And the more of those that you add, like every one of them is like a level up. It's like an achievement. Every time you add just one of those things to your game plan, then you get a little bit better at the list. But
okay. All right. Well, I have a weird one. So, some of my other buddies are big tournament players, and I was talking to them about how I'm trying to get better and things like that. And he told me that he's working on writing his own list, and was saying that he had to get more reps in before he could do any changes. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, every list that I write, I put in 50 games before I'm allowed to make a change to the list.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know if it's variance from game to game or not.
Yeah.
That's extremely ultra high level competitive, but for the casual to slightly competitive person, how many reps do you think a list deserves before you can really make changes?
That is a question that I have brought on podcasts before. Like because I've had games where I played a character twice and I was like, this character is just totally letting me down. But I also accept the 2 games is not enough.
Yeah.
You just genuinely do not know a character well enough after 2 games. But I don't think there's any clear answer to this one, which might be a shitty way to answer your great question, is that I think for me personally, and this might come from just like how long I've been playing this type of game, I look for my gut feeling. And this is probably not a great solution for everyone, but when I play a list, even if I lose with it, I kind of get this feeling like, wait a second, I feel like this was working, or I feel like I could solve problems and maybe I just need to get a little bit better at it, or, you know, and I just look for that indication that there's something there and then go roll into it. If I play it and I'm just like, man, I didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything, and you know, then I might set it down, because there's just so many things to try and so many things to enjoy that sometimes you're like, this might be a good list, but just doesn't work for you.
Sure.
Or doesn't work for your local meta. And so that question is a very hard one to answer. And I don't think there's a clear answer to it that's going to be a little bit different based
Fair
on,
enough.
but it depends on how many games you get in, right? If you get in 2 games a week, which I think is pretty normal.
Sure.
I think most people would be very happy if they're getting 2 in-person games per week.
Yeah.
And if you play 2 games with something and you're like, I didn't like this model, like you have to fucking love that character if you're bringing him back next week.
That's so
right.
true.
And so I think trust your gut. And if something wasn't working for you, but I think the important thing is, even if something didn't work for you one week, you got to be willing to go back to it down the road at some point, because it can be skill. It can be. I hated Darth Maul at first, but I think I played him very badly the first few times that I played him, and I was using the wrong stance card. And so maybe the answer to your question is actually like, step back and go, well, was there an important part of his kit that I wasn't using? Well, should I have been on the other stance card? Is it that this character doesn't belong in this particular list? Like, Donovan and I were just talking because he beat me with Darth Maul and I was playing Darth Maul, and I think the reason why it worked better for him was that Darth Maul likes tanky characters that are alive on points, so that Darth Maul pulling someone off a point can make a multi-point swing, where he can like move past someone, pull somebody off a point, so you will gain control of it because you had a tanky guy like Wrecker or something still on there. And so sometimes you're gonna be like, well, maybe that character was actually good, but maybe he's just not good in that list. But that's all part of the journey of learning your list.
That makes sense. So after a game, regardless if you won or lost, what is it? Is it really just gut feeling that you're going for? Is it kind of like, do you have a little like mental checklist? Like, did I do XYZ, or did XYZ happen?
No, I would say the main thing for me personally is, do I get that gut feeling that this works?
Okay.
Now, I think everybody else is kind of like, was it close? Was I, maybe approaches that in a more mathematical way. But no, for me, it's definitely, is my spider sense tingling, right? Am I feeling like this list may have the juice?
Okay. All right. So taking everything that we've said. So I kind of amalgamating all of that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's so try to pick a few things you would do well for when you're starting? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes. I think make sure you're good at least a couple of things.
Okay. And then trying to evaluate yourself after a game more neutrally, going back to the drawing board, remembering characters you might have overlooked in the beginning, and then spending a lot of time just like kind of thinking about looking at other characters. But what I'm hearing is the main thing, the fundamental and irreplaceable part of this is just reps.
Yeah, I mean, there's no replacement for just practice and like getting better at the game and getting better with the characters and getting better at Shatterpoint fundamentals. There's no replacing that for sure.
Do you think that for someone getting into the game, how is it kind of a personal decision how soon you start writing your own list, or would you recommend like, no, don't even bother until you've done XYZ?
So, I mean, I definitely gave you list suggestions early on, but I would say my feeling is I feel like list building is part of the miniature journey.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of people want to come into a game and they want a little bit of a jump start and they want to feel like what's a good list to begin with. And I think that is a perfectly fine way to start. I think there is just something about the journey though, and I do wonder sometimes if even as a podcaster and in the Discord world, like I think back to my early days of Magic the Gathering and my early days of like Star Wars minis by Wizards of the Coast, and like figuring out lists without any online help is still fun.
Yeah.
And I think you do lose something if you don't have that at all.
Okay. That's fair. Okay. All right. So, all right. I think we've been talking for a while. I actually don't know because I no longer have a timer to look at. All right. So, last thing. If you had like one little golden rule for me to follow for my list building, what would that be?
Ooh, that is a good question. I didn't foresee this one. And I told you, like, I can answer any list building question.
You did.
One golden rule, if I wanted to have one overarching
yeah, just like if when I'm thinking about writing lists, like something that I can, like, if I'm getting too lost in the weeds, thinking too far down a certain path, I like with the Omnus golden rule. Let me remind myself of the truest rule. Of
play Mando. No.
Like, no.
No. What would be my golden rule? I was like, I could make a whole list of rules, but that kind of breaks the purpose. I would say fall back to your goal would be my golden rule. What is my goal with this particular list right now? And so I do this myself. And so I think that this probably is actually my golden rule, which is if I'm like, for example, my first GT, I was like, I just want to play Mando a lot. I wanted to play Mando a lot, learn Mando. And so my golden rule was, okay, I'm building different Mando variations. But if you're going to the game store and you're like, I want to get good at this new mission, or I just haven't played this particular mission a lot, or if you're just going, nobody's good at this mission. What if I'm good at this mission? You know, or you're just kind of going, I want to see how good Chewie is. You know, whatever your thought process is, you know, and in your case, like your last event, you're like, I want to play this all ladies list.
Yep.
You know, fall back. And if you're hitting a spot where you're kind of going, oh, should I do this or should I do that? Or like fall back on what is your goal? I think people get lost in that sometimes. And you're like, I see people who are like, well, sometimes I'm like, what is my final decision for this list? And you know what? I don't like getting screwed by Obi. So I'm going to fall back on something that helps me in the Obi matchup. Could be my fallback. But, you know, if you're building a list, like Adepticon is right around the corner. And I think people are probably going to look at it and go, and make like last minute list calls. Like Dizzard changes his list constantly leading up to events. And I think a thing that you would look at and go, okay, well, what is my goal for the event? Is a goal to just do reasonably well? And like my goal is making sure that I'm like giving my opponents the absolute best challenge, then let your final decisions lean towards that. If you're just kind of going, you know what? I want to play the stuff that I like to play, then let that be your final guideline. So whatever your end goal is, have a thesis statement with your list, and just remember, push come to shove, go back to your thesis statement.
Okay, I like that. Remember who you are.
Yeah. The queen of droids.
Yes.
All right. Well, how far did we get down your list of questions? You told me there was a lot.
There was a lot. We got like the main points follow questions.
Yeah.
I skipped a lot of the sub questions.
Okay. So how did you? So I don't know if my approach to list building matches even what you were trying to accomplish. How close did this execute in the way that you kind of envisioned it?
It's very different that like the way it works just because I'm not, again, I come from a different world a little bit. And so the way that game works is very different where it is weirdly closer to Magic where there are more win conditions. So, I don't know as much. And so that was interesting. And I think, I do have stuff to work on and think about, but, it is a little bit what I didn't want to hear, which is just you have to do the reps. There's not a secret. There's not a secret fast pace to get through to everything. You just have to take the time to play and learn the models. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the downside of playing games is that you got to play the game.
You got to play the game. You can't just immediately be good at the game.
There's no magical. And honestly, unlike. It's a lot easier in a deck building game or something where you're like, if I understand the basis of this game, I can probably play the deck. And you're like, some of the subtle choices about like 3 cards versus 4 cards, you're like, I don't have to think about why they chose that and just trust that it's the right decision.
Yeah.
But in a game like this, it can be a lot harder to be like, why did player X choose this character for the secondary slot? And did they plan to hold that character back? Like I played a game somewhat recently where I was like, I'm not moving people up onto the midline right away. Nope, I'm sitting back. And it was the right decision in that game. And that was just kind of like me operating on some instinct. I wasn't sure. I was worried I was going to make the wrong call. But a lot of time if you look at somebody else's list who just won a GT or something, they might have a very complicated reason and huge amount of games that led into that subtle choice that unless you ask them, you're probably not going to get right away. Yeah.
And that's just like something I have to remind myself of. I just don't have the reps on things that everyone does. And things just aren't going to make immediate sense to me. Even like I've been playing for a while, but like not well, so it'll be a while before I have things totally figured out.
I've seen you play pretty solidly with both like the OB Kiati list and the Jin Cassian list. I feel like your fundamentals are there.
Sure. I don't think I was getting okay, and then I hurt myself and had to take some time off. But I think that the thing I'm missing is really like learning just more of the characters so I can think about how to take things in and make like I think with lists that I have played, like I play them a couple times, I'm like, oh, I get it. That's what this list is trying to do. Versus starting with what am I trying to do and working from there is kind of the gap for now. But exciting things to work on. Yep.
Yeah, I think fall back to I think creating your thesis statement about your list, like what is my goal? And don't make the goal too hard in the sense of like, I think it's important to accept that if you want to learn a character, don't necessarily make it where like, I want to learn this whole box. I think a lot of people do go, I want to just play this box as is. I'm definitely the opposite direction where I like to play the box a little piecemeal to start, in times and like, I want to learn one of the models and then at least learn like one of them, play a few games with it, then switch and try the full box. So I'm not learning a whole box all at the same time where I'm like, is it the box that's the problem? I don't want too many things to try to like figure out what's the problem in the moment. And so I like to get some baseline experiences. So I think don't overcomplicate it for yourself at first. Tweak little things at a time and don't make big sweeping changes, and always fall back to like, hey, what's my goal for this? Is your goal to learn to play Padme? Then maybe you start changing things up and just going like, okay, what's a cool Padme list? What else could go with Padme? And just experiment. And that's why we love the game, because like your journey with Padme could be months long as you're like, okay, I tried this version. Let me try this other thing. And then you get to go, ooh, I like the other thing better. Why did I like it better? And then go, okay, well, this is why I liked it better, but this was the parts that was holding it back. And
I like it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, did you enjoy your list building episode? And will we need a part 2?
Part 2 will have to come after I let all this percolate and try a few things, and then I have
simmer.
Then I'll have like this was like the elementary school list building episode. Well, later we'll have a high school list building episode. And then after that we'll have a college. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Or break. We have like a summer school one that's like,
we have detention episode. Like this, that was really bad.
So I saw what you built, and you're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm getting a D- right now.
Right on the chalkboard. I will not.
Yeah. Remember coordinated fire. Yeah. Remember coordinated fire. Yeah. Over and over.
Good times. Good times. All right, well, we started with a video game conversation, so I guess we were talking about Kalar boss monster.
Yeah, you tell me. You tell me if this boss monster. I think this random monster that tears limbs off, he's rarely reserved. He might be, if I became a Mando all of a sudden, it might be a Kalar boss monster on my pauldron as like my sigil. That's your
it might be the Kalar boss monster because he was the thing that I overcame in my young Mando development years.
It was a defining point in your childhood.
Yes, it was. I think me overcoming the Kalar boss monster for the first time was more important than Mando overcoming the Mudhorn for the first time. I think that's how significant it was. I could have used a Grogu in that moment. All right. Later, nerds.
Comm signal lost.